Hello everyone, my name is Atanu Mukherjee. I work at Rodale Institute as postdoctoral research associate. So today I'm going to give you an update of the William Penn project at Rodale Institute and Stroud Water Research Center. And the content of the topic of this presentation would be soil health and water quality under contrasting farming systems. So before I start the presentation, I would like to give you some instructions that I cannot hear you, so audience. So if you ask me any questions verbally, I will not be able to hear it. Just give me a minute. And however, if you cannot hear me, then please check your audio settings. And for asking me any question, please use the Q&A button function, and I will respond to your question at the end of the presentation. One thing to note that this webinar is being recorded, and this will be posted on Rodale Institute's website. If you have any issues, any technical issues, please call Maria Pop, who is the Education Director of Rodale Institute. Her phone number is 610-683-1481. And again, welcome to the webinar, the research presentation at Rodale Institute. So a little bit about the project synopsis. So Rodale Institute and Stroud Water Research Center, they partnered together to evaluate soil health and water quality under various farming systems side by side, farming management practices side by side. And William Penn Foundation, they generously have given us funding for 6 years, starting from 2018 through 2024. So 6 years funded project. Total grant allocated was $6 million. Number of objectives, the main objective is to evaluate the water quality, the impact of different farming management practices on water quality, surface water and groundwater quality, as well as whether or not transitioning from conventional system to organic system, if that improve soil health and enhance crop yield. One important component objective is also to educate farmers. So these are just the project synopsis to begin with. Little bit background of this project. So Delaware River Watershed, the map here you are looking at, in short DRW, that connects four different states, northeast states: New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and covering like almost like 14,000 miles square. So this DRW, or Delaware River Watershed, that provides clean drinking water for almost like 5% of the total United States population. That means almost like 15 million people. And the annual economic revenue, or the value, is like almost like $25 billion. And however, out of that, almost like $3.4 billion are from farm products. So a number of conventional farmers are actually farming on this Delaware River watershed basins. So the one question that actually arose, that like whether or not these conventional farming methods, practices, these actually pollute or adversely impact the surface water and groundwater. That is something we are trying to figure out. So Rodale Institute and Stroud Water Research Center have begun a long-term research, education, and outreach project in 2018. So the various objectives, few of them are listed here as you see. One is to enhance soil health, and soil quality is connected to water quality. So in enhancing soil health will consequently improve freshwater quantity and quality, and we are we are researching side by side organic management practices versus conventional management practices to figure out which one is better. So as you know, like healthy soils promote freshwater quantity or quality, healthy soils increase water infiltration, storage rainfall, so less irrigation. Healthy soils also minimize contaminants like sediments, nutrients, pesticides, different bacterial, microbial population. We also have other components besides research. One is developing farming training and marketing campaigns to facilitate paradigm shift. We are also conducting outreach events, like we have farm management practices. We do field days in both locations of the project that I'm going to get to very soon. We also present our research results in various domestic events, as well as different conferences, national and international conferences. So we have two field locations. One is at Rodale Institute in Kutztown, Pennsylvania, Berks County, and where we already established farming systems trial back in 1981. That is like almost like 39 or 40 years ago, where we are actually researching side by side in these field plots, organic versus conventional management systems, how those actually impact soil health and water quality. About 1 hour south, we established research field plots at Stroud Preserve, which is in Westchester County, in Pennsylvania. We call it Watershed Impact Trial. So we actually established the similar management practices that we already established long time ago at FST in Kutztown. So we are also doing side-by-side trial, organic versus conventional management at Stroud Preserve. The main difference between these two locations is the slope. So FST, the farming system trial, in short FST, the FST fields are in Kutztown. Those are pretty flat. So the slope is almost like 0 to 3% slope. Compared to this Westchester County, the Stroud Preserve, although we established the similar management practices, same as FST, the slope is very high. It's like very steep slope, like 8 to 15% of slope. As you see, there are like a lot of different soil types are present in both locations. However, the main soil texture is silt loam. Here we are looking at different locations, management practices. So first, let me introduce you the different management practices at farming system trial at Rodale Institute in Kutztown, Pennsylvania. So like I said, in 1981, like about 39 years ago, Rodale Institute started side-by-side trial, and this is, by the way, the longest running field trial, side-by-side field trial of organic versus conventional systems. So in 1981, they started a trial, conventional versus organic. So they established two different organic systems in 1981 in Kutztown. And then one was organic manure that receives periodical manure application, like about 40 tons composted manure per hectare basis periodically. And they have long rotations of annual grains and perennial forage crops. That is the fertility source of this organic manure system. Organic legume system, so two organic systems, one conventional. Organic legume system, on the other hand, has organic cash grain systems that has actually leguminous cover crops as the sole sole source of the fertility. So the only source of the fertility in the organic legume system is the leguminous cover crop. Uh, in comparison, the conventional side-by-side plots, research plots, that actually receives regular synthetic chemicals, fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides. So the difference between these three systems, main difference is that both organic systems do not receive any synthetic chemicals as the fertility source. However, the conventional system receives synthetic fertilizer as well as the pesticides and herbicides. Those organic systems, both organic systems, do not receive. Now, from 1981 through 2008, all those field plots, all those research field plots have been tilled. However, in 2008, we established no tillage because no tillage around that time already been established almost everywhere. So we established no till to figure out if tillage has any impact on various research areas, soil health, water quality, and nutrient density. That means nutrient density of different grain crops that we are actually growing, mostly corn and soybean. So now, before we only had three different systems: organic manure, organic legume, and conventional. But now all those plots are actually equally divided, till and no-till. So now we have 6 systems at FST. Now, like I said, at Watershed Impact Trial at Stroud Preserve, we established similar organic versus conventional systems. We established similar management practices over there. But historically, this location has been under conventional grain system. So the organic system we actually introduced when this project started in 2018. So these are the overall views of different management practices at both locations. Now, let me state a little bit about how we collect the soil samples. We call it deep soil coring. So soil samples are being collected from 0 to 10 centimeter through all the way to 60 to 100 centimeters. So from soil surface 0 to centimeter to all the way to 100 centimeters. So that's why we call it deep soil coring. And in order to do that, we use a Gidding probe method. So every plot, we collect randomly 5 soil samples using this probe, and from both locations, and one entire core. So every plot we collect 5 samples, so there would be like 5 of these different tubes, and then one we keep for bulk density measurement. That's a one soil physical property measurement, and other 4 we cut based on the depth. 0 to 10 centimeter, we cut the core here, and then 10 to 20 centimeter, 20 to 30 centimeter, we cut those by depth and in the laboratory, and then we mix by depth and make aggregate soil samples. Then we send the soil samples to various labs for different soil physicochemical analysis. And now I'm going to show you how we collect the soil samples in a video. Okay, so this is how we actually collect the soil samples from both locations. Like I said, we also collect water samples from all those different plots. We established lysimeters, and I will get to that later. I will just touch base about the water quality parameters. But a number of different nutrients we actually analyze from the collected water samples. Those are phosphorus, nitrate and nitrite nitrogen, total dissolved nitrogen, ammonium nitrogen, dissolved organic carbon, suspended solids, pesticides, different microbial groups, including coliform and E. coli. So these, all of those different nutrients and organic different microbial groups, those are being analyzed. However, today I'm going to discuss only about the soils and water samples collected from FST locations. That means in the location which is in Kutztown, and which has been under different management practices for 39 years so far. So the reason behind it is that at Stroud Preserve, we only established the organic management practices just like 1.5 years ago. So we do not expect much differences in soil health and water quality because we just recently introduced the organic management practices there. Here we are looking at a number of researchers, including the scientists, technicians, and interns. They all contribute to collect the soil and water samples in the field, manage the fields, all those field plots over time, over the years, throughout the years, at various locations. Now, this is a background of the FST soils. So remember these at FST at Kurzon location, under farming system trial, it started back in 1981. So I plotted the soil organic matter dynamics over time. So just wanted to give you a background of how the soils are right now compared to what those soils were before, back in 39 years ago. So look at these three. So from now on, you will see that conventional is color coded as red, legume is color coded as green, and manure is color coded as blue. And this color code will be throughout my remaining of this presentation. And you see that back in 1981, all of those different plots had similar, like about 3.3 to 3.5% of organic matter. And after like about 35 years, after 3 decades, conventional increased, but the increment was like almost like 3.6, not very much. Compared to the legume system and the manure system, both were increased like all the way up to like 4.4%. So the overall change is almost like 17% under averaging the organic system. So organic system actually increased much more rapidly, much faster organic matter compared to the conventional systems. And yeah, as you know, that more organic matter in the soil is actually better for the plant growth. Now, past 10 years, what happened in past 10 years? This is another overview of the past 10 years data, and you see that legume, compost, and conventional, these are actually significantly different when it comes to soil carbon and soil nitrogen. Soil carbon was significantly higher under compost, followed by legume, followed by conventional system. So, and soil nitrogen had a similar trend. And if you average the legume and compost as present both of them as organic system, then you see this is actually much better. That you see it's much clear actually. You see that organic system actually increased soil carbon over time significantly compared to the conventional system. Same for nitrogen. For the pH, the organic system has a little bit lower compared to the conventional system, but overall pH is like about 6.5. And as you know, that soil fertility depends on very much depends on soil pH, and soil pH over 6 is actually pretty good. 6 to 7 is pretty good. So we don't have any concern about soil pH under any systems. But the take-home message from here is that organic systems historically at FST location had significantly higher organic matter, significantly higher soil carbon, significantly higher soil nitrogen. So organic system actually improved soil health at FST location. Soil physical properties, there are like number of physical properties. I'm going to discuss only 3 of them here. One is compaction, how soil is very compacted or dense. Soil water infiltration, how soil water can be infiltrated throughout the profile. And water stable aggregates, the mechanism how soil actually break down or stay together. So this is a busy slide, but I would like to give you some background of it. So soil compaction can be measured by using a penetrometer. So penetrometer is a device that that is actually a kind of probe sensor. You push that in, like here you are seeing the researcher is pushing that through the soil surface, and then there is a gauge. The needle will go through from 0 look at this graph, 0 to all the way 600 psi. Psi means pounds per square inch. So what does that mean? That means is that when you push the penetrometer from the soil surface, it's actually recording how much pressure you are actually applying through the soil layers. So why this is important? So researchers before found that this actually simulates the penetration of the plant roots towards the deeper soil profile. So plant roots, agricultural plant roots, cannot penetrate beyond 300 psi. So soil compaction, that is why soil compaction is determined using penetrometer in the root zone using 300 psi as the threshold penetration resistance of the soil, because most crop roots cannot easily penetrate soil above 300 psi penetrometer readings. So if you look at this chart, you would see that initially you have like 0 psi, pounds per square inch force, and that around that time you plant root can actually the root penetration potential is like 100%. At around 100 psi, when you push it a little bit, then the plant root still can penetrate like about 70-80%. 200, 30%. At 300, it's 0%. So after 300, beyond that point, plant root cannot reach the denser or the lower depth of the soil. So then we call it the critical compaction layer. So once the needle goes all the way to 300 psi, we stop pushing. We pull it up, we pull up the probe or the penetrometer, and we measure the how much it actually went in, and that is something that centimeter we record it, and then that thing actually tells you that you reach the critical compaction layer that is beyond 300 psi. So here we are looking at how these different systems, the soil from different systems actually acted when we pushed the penetrometer. So for an example here, if you look at no-till plots, conventional no-till on average, it's like about 12 or 14 centimeters. So the critical compaction layer reached at around 12 or 15 centimeters for the conventional system. For the organic system, on average, we are seeing that it is far beyond 15 centimeters. It's almost like 25 centimeters. So we found that significantly different numbers for organic versus conventional. So why this is important, because if we find the compaction layer reached very shallow, like within very close to soil surface, then that means the compaction layer exists under conventional system very close to soil surface. That means the plant root cannot go beyond that layer and cannot actually extract or absorb more nutrients and water that plant roots can get in the organic systems. So when you have a deeper, so when you push the penetrometer from the soil surface, if it goes all the way down and then you get the compaction layer, or 300 psi, that is actually better compared to if you reach the compaction layer within a shallow depth. So here again, to reiterate that conventional plots are very highly and significantly compacted, because the compaction layer actually reached on average, both no tillage and tillage plots on average on shallower depth compared to the organic fields. And that was 2019, and in 2020, this year, we found a similar trend that conventional system actually significantly shallower compared to the organic systems. So the take-home message from these two slides is that organically managed soils are significantly less compacted compared to the conventionally managed fields. So that basically means that organically managed fields, the plant roots actually can go beyond the shallow depth and can go actually go to the denser soil profile and can get or absorb nutrients and water from the deeper profile compared to the conventional systems, which is good. Now, similarly, you can also estimate soil water infiltration rate, and you can do it by using double ring infiltrometer in the field. And I'm not going to go through all the processes, but because the conventional system has been like very compacted, the water infiltration rate has been very poor compared to the organic systems. So that's what we are seeing here, that under both no tillage and tillage systems, the conventionally managed soils are actually filtering water much lower rate compared to the organic systems. And on average it looks like about 3 or 4 uh, centimeter inches per hour, compared to here it is like almost like 12. So it's like significant difference we are seeing here. So it's like infiltration rate increased up to like 4 times, 3.7 times under organic compared to conventional system. Why this is important? If you have higher infiltration rate in your soil, then when there is like very high storm event or very high rainfall, then you will not have any water logging condition. You will not have yeah, the water will filter out through the soil profile. So that is actually very good for your soil, for your fields. So basically you want to have very high infiltration rate and very good, very low compaction. That is what we are seeing under the organic management practices at FST compared to conventional management practices. Similarly, we saw that similar thing like in 2020, that was 2019, the previous slide, this is 2020. But in 2020, we found that it is actually even getting higher. So before it was like about 15, now it is like almost like 30, 35. And before, under the tilled system, the manure plots fields, those are like about 12. Now here it is like almost like 28. So manure system is actually infiltrating water, soil water much faster and rate compared to legume as well as conventional. Conventional is still lagging behind, much lagging behind, significantly less infiltration rate compared to organic systems. So we see the similar thing in both years. Now, another soil physical quality is water stable aggregates or aggregate stability. So aggregate is a group of is defined as a group of primary soil particles that adhere to each other more strongly than the surrounding particles. Now, aggregate stability is the resistance to disruption or breakage of aggregates by external forces such as very high rainfall event. So if you have very high soil stable aggregates, that's actually good for your soil. And the reason behind it is that if you have very high stable aggregated soil, very stable aggregated soil, it will actually be resistant to erosion, because when you a very high rainfall, you might lose soil from the surface, because if the soil is not very aggregated, it's gonna be carried away with the water, and you don't want that. That is why you want to have very high aggregate stability. One thing to note is that aggregate stability is very sensitive to tillage operation, and I'm going to discuss that a little bit more in the next slide. So the next slide from this one. So you can actually estimate water stable aggregates in the lab. Various different methods are out there. The traditional methods are Yoder method, and at Rodale Institute we employ the modified Yoder method, where we have a water column and we place the soil in a sieve, and we actually slick, or that means oscillate the soil on the sieve like for like 5 minutes or so. And then after that we take out the soil, and then we dry the soil and see how much soil actually sieved through, and how much soil is retained on the sieve after drying. And from there we can estimate how much soil actually was very stable and forms aggregate and stay on the net of the sieve, how much soil is actually retained on the sieve. that would give you the estimate of the aggregate stability of the soil. There is some calculation, I'm not getting there. However, very recently there is a rainfall simulation method that is being employed by Cornell University, where as you see that a rainfall is being simulated here, water is flowing through here, and the soils are placed here, and again on the sieve, and after you have the rainfall event, like for say 5 minutes or so, you take out the soil and you dry it, and weigh the dried soil and estimate how much soil is retained on the sieve to get some estimation of water stable aggregates. So I'm not going to go through these videos, but I'm going to give you the results here. Here we are looking at water stable aggregates by percentage and by different systems and tillage, right? So at 0 to 10 centimeter depth, what we are seeing that conventional system, no-till conventional system, has significantly higher water stable aggregates compared to the legume and manure system, mostly like manure system. Similarly, under tilled condition, the conventional system had higher compared to the legume and manure, although there is no significant differences. Now, if we average all of these three systems as no-till versus till, if you look at this chart, you will see this outline bar, this clear bar that represents the tillage. So the no tillage is this one, and tillage is this one, and these are significantly different. So we are seeing that no tillage system, under no tillage system, water stable aggregates, estimation of water stable aggregates is significantly higher compared to the tillage system. So that actually reinforces the assumption, scientists' assumption, that if you till the soil, the specifically 0 to 10 centimeter depth, you are actually breaking a lot of stable aggregates. That is why the tillage system has been lower for water stable aggregates. Now, why the conventional system higher, conventional no-till system is significantly higher? The reason behind it is that conventional no-till system in FST location, conventional no-till system is the least impacted fields. So because in conventional no-till system, we actually use a lot of synthetic herbicides and pesticides to deal with pests as well as weeds. However, remember the organic systems, both legume and manure, they do not receive any pesticides and herbicides. So we have to cultivate the soils. And also we have to establish the cover crop by using the tillage. So that is why we constantly have to have some sort of like tillage operations under the organic systems. That is why these two are more impacted by tillage, and that is why these are actually lower compared to the conventional no-till system. The similar results we found this year, like last year, 2019, like 0 to 10, and I'm showing both three different depths, 0 to 10, 10 to 20, and 20 to 30. There is no significant difference in the deeper profile, but in the surface profile, 0 to 10 centimeter. Again, similarly, 0 to 10 centimeter no-till conventional system had significantly higher compared to the other, and tillage had significant impact on water stable aggregates. The tillage, overall tillage, is significantly adversely affecting the water stable aggregate. It's much lower compared to the no tillage system. Now, one thing you might note that the water stable aggregates is a lower percentage here. But remember, in 2019, we used Cornell's method, the rainfall simulation method, and in that method, we use very high force rainfall simulation. And that is why the water stable aggregates came out to be a little lower compared to the last year Yoder method. Like I said, we are analyzing a lot of different soil chemical properties using different labs, and these are some of the very important ones, like pH, organic matter, cation exchange capacity, P, N, K, different other micronutrients. I'm not going to discuss all of them, but a few of them will be discussed right now. So soil pH, for an example, in both years, 2018 and 2019, soil pH range like 6 to 6.3. So these are showing 0 to 10, 10 to 20, and 20 to 30 centimeter under each different system, conventional legume and manure. But these underlined numbers are actually average of these different layers, 0 to 10, 10 to 20, and 20 to 30. When we average it, this number is going to tell you what is the pH of the 0 to 30 centimeters. So instead of 0 to 10 and 10 to 20 and 20 to 30, I averaged 0 to 30 centimeter, and we are seeing that it's almost like 6 to 6.3 both years. And remember the pH of soil, if it is like over 6 to 7, 5.5 to 7, it's actually good. So we have no concern about soil acidity under any systems at FST. Soil organic matter, on the other hand, we are seeing that conventional system is lagging behind. It is 3.4 up to 0 to 30 centimeter. Now legume is little higher, 3.5, and it's significantly higher under manure system, which is 3.8. And it is actually looking much better this year, 2019. We are seeing that it actually increased, the organic matter increased 3.8 to 4.4 in 2019. And the legume improved like 3.5 to 4.1. So I'm seeing that the organic matter increment within 1 year is like 0.6% under organic system. Compared to the conventional system, we are seeing that 3.4 to 3.7 or 0.3%. So basically this also tells you the story that under the conventional system, although it is increasing, remember the first graph where we showed like 1981 through 2015 or 2016, the conventional system is like increasing, the slope is not very steep compared to the organic system. So organic system is actually improving soil organic matter much faster rate compared to conventional system. Cation exchange capacity, it is a particular soil property. So higher cation exchange capacity is tells you about the nutrient exchange capacity, ability of the soils to exchange nutrients with the soil solution, and that means better soil fertility. Why is that? Because when you have higher cation exchange capacity, soil actually absorb all the nutrients, whatever you apply through fertilizer or manure or different types of amendments, those nutrients are being absorbed on the soil surface, and the soils, different soils have different ability to exchange that nutrients reserved from the soil surface to the soil solution, and plant roots actually picks up those nutrients from the soil solution. So the higher the number of cation exchange capacity, you will have a better nutrient exchange capacity and better soil fertility. And we are looking at all these three different systems in 2018, and we are seeing that manure or compost manure system has significantly higher compared to legume and compost system. Compost, it's not significantly higher, manure and conventional, but overall we are seeing that higher number under the manure system. Now, cation exchange capacity, like this range, like 10 to 15, this is not very high. It's not considered very high. If you have like very high cation exchange capacity, we would say like 20 or even more than 20. Some like organic matter has very high, like even like 50, 60, 80. So we would like to see how cation exchange capacity increases over time. So this is the first year result. We want to see it later. But also you have to keep in mind that cation exchange capacity is an inherent property of soils. It depends on a lot of different properties of soil. For example, the clay matter content of the soil, how much sand is there. So a lot of different other properties are associated with cation exchange capacity. So it is actually also dependent on different other soil properties. Now, we sent samples to two different universities. In 2018, we sent samples to PSU, Pennsylvania State University. In 2019, we sent the samples to Cornell University for the soil samples. And these soil samples were being analyzed for different nutrients. And how they analyze for nutrients, they extract the soils using different extractants. That means different combination of different chemicals. Now, PSU uses a particular extractant, that is malic 3, which is a very strong chemical combination. versus Cornell, they used modified Morgan, which is a weak extractant. So because PSU is a strong extractant, it actually gives us a data for the nutrients which are very high number compared to the Cornell. They gave us the numbers which are lower, but you can actually interpret the data based on the fertility recommendation based on that particular extractant. So here we are looking at soil phosphorus, 2018 results and 2019 results. 2018, so 0 to 30 centimeter on average, there is no significant differences between soil phosphorus and between different systems for soil phosphorus. But when we averaged for 0 to 10, 10 to 20, and 20 to 30, we see that manure system actually had significantly higher phosphorus compared to legume system. There is no significant difference between manure and conventional system. So now when you see the soil phosphorus test results, then you have to see what is the recommendation for, say for an example, corn. So for corn, PSU extension department, they say that 100 to 150, 30 to 50 ppm phosphorus is recommended, or the optimum. So 30 to 50 ppm belongs here. So that basically means that although legume system has lower phosphorus soil test values, we had adequate phosphorus in the reserve in the soil test, in the soil solution. And in 2019, they used little bit different extractant, which is modified Morgan, which is a weak one. So that is why you are seeing that phosphorus values are low. But for Morgan, they have a different recommendation level for phosphorus, and you see that they are saying that it's about like 5 ppm. Milligram per kilogram is ppm. So about 5 ppm, and we are seeing that on average 0 to 30 centimeter, like upper layer of the soil, conventional had 4.7 ppm, legume 4.8, and manure 6.8. So almost all of those also had adequate phosphorus in all of those FST soils. So we don't have any problem with phosphorus deficiency in the FST, in any of the soils at FST location. Soil potassium, on the other hand, it's a little bit different. Again, soil potassium here, we are seeing that on average, it was 87, 78, and 73 for conventional legume and manure system in 2018. And their recommendation, PSU extension department's recommendation, is about 100 to 150 ppm. And we are seeing that only conventional system 0 to 10 centimeter that actually reaches that. All the other are actually lagging behind. Now in 2019, we are seeing some dramatical change. We are seeing that remember, this is from modified Morgan, a weaker extractant they used, but their level is about 80 ppm for potassium when they use weaker extractant solution. And we see that overall 70, 78, and 88. So we are saying that manure and legume, they actually catch up. They are actually having, both systems actually are having adequate potassium. But we are not seeing the same trend for conventional. So conventional has a little bit lower potassium in the 0 to 30 centimeter soil profile at FST. Let's move on to the water quality. So remember, I said that we also collect water samples from various plots. So we actually established passive lysimeters, so deep lysimeters in different plots at FST, and we collect after 3 or 4 months every year. So we collect the water samples like every 3 or 4 months, like pumping out the water samples. Here, this is Dr. Emmanuel Omandi, who is the farming systems director. So he's engaged with collection of the passive lysimeter samples. And these samples, after collection every 3 or 4 months, we send the samples to various labs for different water quality parameters measurement. Here we are looking at how total nitrogen has been leached at FST. And we are seeing that conventional systems, all the plots which are under the conventional systems, they have been leaching significantly higher total nitrogen compared to the manure system. Legume system is in between conventional and manure system. So the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, they have a threshold for a drinking water drinking water purpose, and that is 10 ppm. And we are seeing that the overall range is like 3 to 4 ppm maximum. So we don't have any concern that any of these systems are actually leaching out a lot of total nitrogen to the groundwater, but we are seeing that conventional system is actually leaching more nitrogen compared to the organic systems on average. It possibly because the conventional system has been receiving regular fertilization, regular NPK over time. Remember, legume and manure system, they never received any chemical fertilizer. And then also conventional system has lower organic matter. So that both of these things together actually are driving this force to give us this kind of trend. Now we also establish soil moisture sensors and suction cup lysimeters. These are little bit different equipment. So moisture sensors, these actually measure or record the soil water dynamics continuously, like every minute. And then we collect the data. Those data are being logged here and being stored here, and we collect the data periodically over time. And suction cup lysimeters, compared to the deep passive lysimeters that I showed you before, these are actually we call it suction cup lysimeters or active lysimeters, because these are actually collecting water samples in real time. So after a heavy rainfall, before the heavy rainfall, we actually install these in the field at 3 different depths, 15, 30, and 45 centimeter. And then we collect, and then after the storm event, we collect the water samples from these bottles, and we analyze those water samples for different nutrients and chemicals under 3 different depths. And here we are looking at nitrate nitrogen and nitrate nitrogen at 3 different depths: 0 to 15, 15 to 30, and 30 to 45 centimeter. And I average the legume and manure, and I'm providing those as organic as a green one. And you see that conventional system, or like under all 3 different depths, are actually higher. It's actually leaching out higher nitrate nitrogen from FST plots compared to organic systems. The same things we found for the nitrate nitrogen, and we are seeing that conventional system is actually leaching out significantly higher, specifically at 15 to 30 centimeter depth compared to the overall organic system. However, again, the EPA threshold for drinking water is 1 ppm for nitrate nitrogen and 10 ppm for nitrate nitrogen, and our range for nitrate nitrogen and nitrate nitrogen is much lower. So we are not seeing any concern for any nitrate or nitrite leaching under any of the studied systems. So I would like to stop it here, but I would like to acknowledge a number of scientists who are engaged in this research project, and as well as a number of technicians under both Rodale Institute and Stroud Water Research Center platforms. So we all actually contribute together in order to make a success of this project. And I would like to take questions at this time. If you have any questions, please hit the question and answer button function, and I will see the questions, open questions, and I will answer those. And if I run out of the out of time, then I will respond to your questions at the later time. And this is my email address. You can actually email me with your questions as well later. Okay, the first question is, at what soil depth were the organic matter, percentage carbon, percentage nitrogen measured at? So we normally measure the all of these three, all the way to 30 centimeter. So organic matter, percentage carbon, percent nitrogen, we measure all different depths, like 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 10 to 30. I gave you the I think the first one, 1981 through 2015, that chart, the organic matter, I think that was average to 0 to 20 centimeter. I know that results have been different depending on where the soil is sampled, and studies have shown that treatments may result in a change in the vertical distribution of carbon rather than the total amount sequestered. Yes, that is right. Um, so soil carbon sequestration is actually a totally different scenario. We have to see about the soil carbon flux, like input and output. That would give you an estimation of soil carbon. Soil organic matter, however, or soil organic carbon percentage, these different parameters are actually giving you a real time how much is actually stored. We are not so when we talk about soil carbon sequestration, we have to have in account we have to account for the input as well as output. So input means like all the soil amendments, and for output we have to also account for greenhouse gas emissions, how much carbon dioxide is being emitted, and how much soil is being lost, how much carbon is being lost. So all of these things together would give you an estimation of soil carbon sequestration. So another question, what was the time interval between the tillage event and the water infiltration test? So normally we do the infiltration test like about like March or April, around that time. And so we normally till the soil like throughout, like after, yeah, even after that. So uh, so when we do the infiltration, that's mostly like before we establish the main grain crop for the summer. So was infiltration measured earlier in the growing season? Yes. Or at the end of the growing season? No. So we normally measure the infiltration just around the spring, like before we actually establish the crops. Besides the physical impact of tillage on aggregate stability, is it possible that the no-till systems had higher mycorrhiza fungi populations which produce glomalin and would also improve aggregate stability? That is true. So there are like a lot of different microbial groups. Those are present as part of organic matter under different systems. So the question is that whether or not, except the tillage, because I said that aggregate stability is very sensitive to tillage, also aggregate stability is very sensitive to different fungi population and different other microbial groups. So however, we see that conventional no-tillage system had significantly higher aggregate stability compared to the other systems. So we can, but this is like only 1 or 2 years data. We need to see more data on that. But from the initial data, I hypothesize that although the conventional system had lower uh, mycorrhizal fungi population, because it has lower organic matter compared to the organic system, although it has like lower microbial population, lower mycorrhizae fungi population, because it was not tilled much, it actually had very high aggregate stability. But overall, if you have very high mycorrhiza fungi, then you would expect you will have higher aggregate stability. But tillage, again, if you don't have tillage, then you will see the aggregate stability higher compared to if you have if it is lower compared to the system where you are actually having no tillage, then you will see very high aggregate stability. So another question is, which water stable aggregate method is more accurate or you would prefer? So the traditionally the water stable aggregates methods, like the Yoder method is followed by almost everyone. The majority scientists have been following the Yoder methods, or the modified Yoder method that we used, like the slicking. um, but which is more accurate, we don't have any side-by-side data. So this is, to my knowledge, this is the first time I have 2018 data on the Yoder method or modified Yoder method versus 2019. We have the same soils, just 1 year older, same soil, that went through the rainfall simulation method by Cornell University. So which one is more accurate? So uh, the Cornell University employs the rainfall simulation. So when it comes to I guess like very high rainfall, and very a really big storm event, I think that the force of water impact on the soil aggregate would be very much accurate in that particular method. But the slicking method, the Yoder method, I think when it is kind of like flooding condition or waterlogging condition, I think that it is going to be more accurate to estimate the water stable aggregates in those conditions. But we don't have any side-by-side data yet to actually say that what would be the range for different, or what is the correlation between these two different methods. Do you have estimate on tons carbon dioxide per hectare comparison, organic versus conventional, for this long-term test plot? Okay, so this is a good question. um, I do not have any carbon dioxide emission data. So this is something which is actually in work at this time. We are thinking to actually implement the greenhouse gas emission as well. So from different fields, we'll establish either static chamber, and from the static chamber, we will collect the gaseous samples over time, and eventually we'll measure the carbon dioxide within the growing season, or even within the whole year basis, and then we would have estimation of tons of carbon dioxide per hectare, organic versus conventional. We don't have that yet because we haven't established any greenhouse gas method. We haven't implemented anything yet. So, but that is something which is actually in works and is very much in works, and we are actually discussing that at this time. Okay. What's the so another question here is, what is your moisture content during penetrometer reading? I think it is like about 10 to 15%. It's not top of my head at this time, but so this type of penetrometer, we stop at 300 psi, and it is not giving you actually there is another type of penetrometer where you get the reading and you correct it based on the moisture content that I used in my previous experiment. But in this one, we are using a penetrometer which does not require a moisture correction. However, remember, we do the penetrometer reading same day, same time on all the plots. So there is no need to have a moisture correction, even if there are like little bit difference in moisture content in different plots. It's gonna be almost the same reading. Have you done any deep sampling to show nutrients leaching out of the normal root zone to drainage tile? No, we haven't done that calculation or that estimation yet. But if you have some question on this later, please send me an email and we can discuss it further details later. Another question is not emission data, but the captured CO2. So, okay, Kevin, this is, I guess that you are relating this question based from your previous question about do you have estimate of tons of CO2 per hectare comparison organic versus conventional for this long-term test plan. I'm not sure that I understood your question very well. You are asking not emission data. I discussed about emission data, but captured CO2. Um, I don't really understand what you are talking about when you said captured CO2. Maybe you can email me with the details about your question, and we can discuss that later. It's already 3 o'clock, so Kevin, you have another question. I see it, and that looks like related to your previous question. Please, yes, I can follow up with email. Yes, thank you, Kevin. Please follow up with email later. And I guess that's pretty much it. And if you guys have any other question, please either email me or you can also call me. My contact address, email address, as well as a phone number listed at Rodale Institute website. And thank you very much for joining us here, and have a good day.